Hello everybody, my name is Zen and welcome to a look at the producer's roadmap to 2014 video for Star Wars. Now, we're going to be looking at this through the eyes of a competitive raider, someone who likes doing operations in Star Wars. And it's unfortunate, but there's a lot of really bad things here. We'll talk about that in a moment. First, let's kind of go over all of the different content that we're going to be getting throughout the year that has been posted in this blog. Now, it's worth mentioning that this isn't a complete thing, and there's plenty of content that will be coming after the stuff listed. So, you know, it's not like this is the only stuff we're getting this year, and there probably will be more here, but this is what they've released thus far. So looking directly at the roadmap itself, you have February 4th, which is tomorrow. I'm uploading this on the 3rd, which is Game Update 2.6, and it's going to be releasing Galactic Starfighter to all of the free-to-play people. We already know about a lot of the 2.6 stuff since it's been on the PTS for quite some time, but free-to-play is going to be able to start doing Galactic Starfighter, which is cool. There's also going to be the bomber, there's new ships, there's a new detailed scoreboard, stuff like that. But the most important thing with 2.6, which is coming out tomorrow, is Kuat Drive Yards, and Kuat Drive Yards is a really awesome flashpoint. It scales to your level, so you start doing it at level 15, and you can do it all the way to level 55, obviously. But every time you do it, the whole thing kind of changes a bit, which is nice because it gives you a bit of a fresh take on it every time you do it. You're not always going to have the exact same experience every time you go in there. So it's really fun, and I've really enjoyed what I've done of it thus far. But that's 2.6. That's obviously tomorrow. Now, on March 14th through the 17th, they've said that there's going to be a double XP weekend, so people can look forward to that. And then April 8th, which is Game Update 2.7, is going to give us 2 new flashpoints, Tython and on Korriban, and basically it's what they're saying is it's going to start a new story where the Empire and the Republic get into it, and it's going to span across multiple updates all the way to the end of the year, where there's going to be an awesome finale. So that sounds like a lot of fun. I love the story in the game, so that's going to be really cool. Then there's the Nightmare Mode Dread Fortress and the new tier of gear, which is coming out with 2.7. We'll get to that in a second. There's the new Huttball Warzone on Quesh. There's a new Galactic Starfighter Battle Zone with 2.7, and this is all on April 8th. Then skipping ahead to June 10th is Game Update 2.8, which is going to give us Nightmare Mode Dread Palace. Once again, we'll get that in a second. New ships for Galactic Starfighter plus a new role, which is pretty cool. And they said, and more. So it's going to be a huge update, but they don't know all the details yet, so they'll give us the details when we get closer to June. Obviously, June is quite a ways off. Now, let's talk about what this all means. It means that there's some really cool stuff coming out for the game, and I'm looking forward to that stuff. Will I do it constantly? Like, am I going to be running Kuat Drive Yards all day, every day for like 3 weeks straight? No, because that's not my content. So as I said at the beginning of the video, we're going to take a look at this through the eyes of a raider. So I am one of those people, and I know I'm in the minority here, so you don't have to mention it, but I am one of those people that only play the game to raid. I only play MMORPGs to do raiding, to do operations. That's what I do. That's how I enjoy the game. So when I played Warcraft for so many years, that's what I did. I was either on a competitive raid team or leading one at any given time when I was playing there. That's what I like to do, and I've constantly gotten better since then at MMOs, and I've, really enjoyed growing and all that, and getting on some really cool teams and meeting some awesome people, because that's what I like to do. Now, with that being said, when I moved over to Star Wars, what I was looking for is a very competitive raid environment that can give me more of a challenge than what I was getting in Warcraft. And I tried several games in between then and switching to Star Wars, and what I found was Star Wars was giving me that stuff that I wanted. I was getting awesome content that was well designed, I was getting difficult fights, and I was getting a competitive environment with the other people that I was playing with and around me, as far as other teams go. So I was really enjoying raiding in the game, but they've gotten into a bad habit of doing things, which is releasing Nightmare Mode months after the content has already been out. So I would look at this stuff and be like, we've been running hard mode since the beginning of October. That's when really the Dread Fortress and Dread Palace was released. Now, if you think about it, October, November, December, January and now February. We've been running this content for almost 5 months, actually more than that, because it was on the PTS for during the whole September area. So we were actually on the PTS doing the content, so we were enjoying it on there, and we did a couple of the hard mode fights on the PTS and really nailed into it when it came out. But we've been running this content technically since September, and it is now February. Honestly, all of my entire team is totally sick of Dread Palace and Dread Fortress at this point. We want something new. We want something fresh. We want new content that's going to keep our attention to the game. And what we see here is on April 8th, which is still quite a ways away, let's be honest, is going to be the Dread Fortress Nightmare mode. Plus, it's going to give us a new tier of gear, which that is, that's okay. I understand that they're giving us new tier gear. I like that. We're going to have new stuff to go after. What I don't like is that we're finally getting Nightmare for Dread Fortress when we could have been doing Nightmare 2 months ago. I understand that it takes development time to get this stuff out, and it is also one of those things that they want to get it right. But the problem is they needed to get it right 2 months ago. We've been so sick of this content that when Nightmare comes out for Dread Fortress, we don't want to do it. It's going to be the exact same fights with a couple extra bells and whistles or minor changes here and there. It's not going to be new content to us. Likewise, we won't even get the Nightmare mode to Dread Palace until the beginning of June. That is ridiculous. It's been so long to get new content that is beginning of June. We're going to get the Nightmare for Dread Palace and probably the rest of the tier gear there, or the tier set, that we will be, wanting to work towards. But still, come on, that is a long time to be running content. Think, we've been running this stuff, the same content, since September all the way to June. It's coming up on a year at that point that we've been running the same stuff. And while it is kind of implied between the lines that there will be a new operation on the Game Update 2.8, it's not explicitly said, so we can't guarantee that. So let's go worst case scenario. Not going to have a new operation in Game Update 2.8, so Game Update 2.9 possibly, which you're looking at, probably the beginning of August, the end of July. It's that is way too long. That is way too long. That is then coming up on almost a year of running the same content. And personally, as a competitive raider, that kills my enthusiasm for the game. I mean, I'm already sick of running Dread Palace, Dread Fortress. We need new content. All of my raiders have been saying this for the past couple months. We don't want to run this stuff anymore. Why are we still doing this? Where's the new content? And we know that there are plenty of guilds out there that are still working their way through hard modes, and there's people who haven't experienced these operations yet, so they're getting, the first chance to actually experience them here soon, which is really cool. But this minority group of players that I'm speaking of, the hardcore raiders, people who are doing this because this is what we play the game for, we are so sick of it, and the problem with this is we're going to move on to something else. And I'm not the only one here, and it's really sad to say, but if we don't get new content before June, it looks like my entire raid group is going to be moving to different games. We're not getting the desired, effect of why I moved to Star Wars in the first place, which was to get competitive raiding, good raid fights, and difficult raid fights to begin with. We're not getting that anymore because we're just going to get the same rehashed content. And that's not fun to us. I hate to mention other games, but you look at, WildStar and EverQuest going to be coming out. You have Elder Scrolls Online, which I personally don't like. I've tried it, and I really didn't like it. I actually kind of hated it. But, it's another game out there that people are going to be flocking to try to get better raid content. Or they're going to go back to WoW, which is definitely a thing to consider, considering the fact that WoW is getting a really awesome new expansion. So my fear is that by June, that Star Wars is going to lose most of its raid scene, and we're all going to go elsewhere. Personally, like I said, the only reason I play the game is to actually do operations, and at this point, I'm not getting the fix I need, and I will probably end up stop playing Star Wars. What does that mean for content on the channel yet? I don't know. We'll figure that out as we go, but we really need new content, and the developers need to hear this. They need to not be lazy with this content development anymore. And I know there's a myriad of different things going on behind the scenes that I'm definitely not aware of, and plenty of people aren't, of how they're developing this content and their actual process to this. But they need to do one of two things at this point. One, give us new content, right? So that's the most obvious one. Give us new content quicker and release story mode Nightmare and hard mode all at the same time. That's one of the things they could do. The second, which is a much easier solution and probably the better solution, is just to get rid of Nightmare entirely and just kind of ramp up hard mode a little bit more. You know, make the end fights a little bit more difficult and require a lot more strategy to them, and then just roll out new content to us quicker. You know, when coming into the game, I thought having 3 difficulty modes is going to be the best thing ever, but thus far they haven't delivered on that, and it's actually hurt the raid scene, in my opinion. But, you know, obviously everybody's going to have their own thoughts on that. And if you look at this roadmap, a lot of the content is like new flashpoints, new Galactic Starfighter stuff, new war zones, and I know that you know, there's no question here that those are bigger player bases than the, you know, competitive raid scene. I understand that. I'm not a fool. But if you want to keep these people around who are going to be doing this hard content that you want to put out, then you gotta throw us a bone. You can't just ignore us, which is kind of what seems to be going on. That's how we feel, and I want to put that out to the devs and the community team and all the community members, that as a competitive raider, and, you know, after talking to members of my raid team and other members that I know, you know, raid on different teams, this is how we feel. This is pretty much a unanimous feeling amongst all of us. And we need new content, and without it, we're going to go somewhere else. So unfortunately, with all of that being said, I would like to kind of hear your guys' thoughts on this. So leave them in the comments below, or send me private messages on Twitter or YouTube. But with that, we shall see you guys next time.